Yeah. Sorry for the being 2 months late to a video. I've been busy. I've been trying a lot of agentic stuff out. So this is gonna be a different video. This is gonna be talking about the developer ecosystem morely into the drama that this blog post written by Jared Sumner ensued in the Zig as well as the Bun uh, community. If you don't know Jared Sumner, first of all, what are you doing? And second of all, how the fuck do you not know Jared Sumner, the creator of Bun? Like, what are you actually doing? And third of all, he's a systems engineer. He's a really prolific engineer who has been working on a lot of stuff, as well as one of the fastest and one of the most hardworking developers that I know. So yeah, that's the history of him. He actually authored this runtime for JavaScript, like JavaScript tooling and bundling system called Bun, which does everything all together, right? It's a single binary package that you could install and use for every single thing that you have to install other things on Node, like for example, linter, formatters, and all those other things. It's like it's very quickly become the industry standard for a lot of projects in 2026, which I really love. Uh, yeah. So if you know Jared, you know that he's a very fast developer, right? If you have not seen the memes like this week in Bun, that was a meme that Jared ships so fast that you can get a new update with Bun every single week, right? So that's the kind of developer Jared is. So let's continue reading this blog post, and I want to know what you actually think about this one, right? So disclosure: Bun was acquired by Anthropic on December 2025. We all were there. We all saw this one. We all congratulated Jared. Let's continue with this. I and others on the Bun team work at Anthropic now. Yeah, that's true. Is it? I used a pre-release version of Claude Fable 5 for much of the rest rewrite. Yep, yep, it's a good model. Bun started as as a line-for-line port of ES builds JavaScript and TypeScript transpiler from Go to Zig. I wrote the first line of Zig on April 16, 2021, and I bet on Zig after seeing the single page Zig language reference on Hacker News. After getting really excited about the low level control and the care of performance. So that's what Zig is really known for, is the low level control. If you don't know much more about Zig, what is really cool about it is that if you know anything about language design, right, you know that you can't be wrong using LLVM. So but Zig is challenging that idea of just using LLVM. It's introducing its own runtime for writing a language, which is crazy. It's actually providing the primitives to build a own language. That's how crazy level of control you can get on top of Zig, right? And it's using the same thing inside Zig as the language itself. So yeah, from the start, Bun scope was massive. TypeScript, JavaScript, TypeScript, and CSS transpiler, minifier, bundler, npm compatible package manager. Yep, just like test runner, Node.js and TypeScript, HTTP1, Node.js API, done some other models. If you don't know, I think I think from both the spectrum of old developers as well as new, everybody loved Bun when it came out because it was trying to solve a very novel problem with JavaScript tooling, right? And even Primogen talked about it, even Theo talked about it, all these other people talked about it. That's how crazy it was. So the initial version of Bun was written by me in 1 year. This is crazier than Bun being as good as it is, right? Cramped Oakland apartment, pre LLM in Zig, and therefore outcome for ambitiously scoped projects like Bun is joining the graveyard of dead side projects on GitHub profile page. Zig made Bun possible. Yep, I would never have been able to build this much in 1 year if it wasn't for Zig. So let's just I'm just gonna collect all of this for later, right? This is what Jared's thoughts on Zig are on Zig. Because I want to compare them one to one with what uh, Andrew's thoughts on Bun are. Because see, this is much more of a political thing than just talking about this, because I wanted to show you in contrast and of what both of these people are doing, right? Uh, Also, let's continue with this. Nowadays, Bun CLI gets over 22 million monthly downloads here. Popular tools like Cloud Code and OpenCode are built on Bun as the node runtime. No longer, I think OpenCode just moved from Bun to Node because of some issues they were facing. But yeah, I would say still OpenCode would not have been able to go as fast as they did with just Bun. It is just something specific that they want more with. Is the reason they are moving away from Bun. Vercel, Railway, DigitalOcean, and and more have the first party support for Bun. Bun scope has been a challenge for stability. Here's a small step of sample bugs that we have been finding. Uh, okay, yeah. Again, if you want to read this, if you are a low level author, you should. But I just think read like skimming through these things, right? And these are not that interesting to cover right now. But you can see a lot of the issues is what led Jared to go from Zig to Rust, right? Like use after free errors, memory issues, memory leaks, and things like that. Guess which language does memory leaks really well? Rust. That's why Jared, I think that's why he had to move, even though he loved Zig, right? So we could have kept fixing this one kind of bugs one off in perpetuity, but we owe it to our users for continuing on us to do better than that and systematically preventing this kind of bugs from recurring. Yeah, true. What we were already doing, we patched Zig compiler to add address sanitizer support. We run our own test suite with address sanitizer on every commit. Okay, we ship Zig's safety checked release save build on Windows. Yeah, okay, that's also true because when Bun wanted to come out of Linux systems to Windows systems is when a lot of the hype for Bun really went further. I think it was with the announcement of version 1 where they moved where they ported for Windows, right? I think yeah. We first Bun's runtime for API 24/7 using Fuzzily, the JavaScript engine fuzzer used by V8 and JavaScript Core. We have a whole lot of end-to-end memory leak tests. This is more than many projects do. Yep, that's true. I think the way Bun was set up was really good as well because no other project, I vibe coded or not, would have been able to be uh, so widely accepted and supported, uh, and so fast moving without all this pre work that he had to do. Right? Just be smart and don't make mistakes. Everybody has said this once, right? Our bug fix list felt bad as I was tired of going to sleep worrying about the crashes in Bun. I don't blame Zig for that. Other users of Zig don't have the bugs we had, and mixing GC and manually manage memory is an uncommon enough thing for software to need that no language designs for it. Right? Exactly. So, uh, Bun was trying to mix both garbage collector that JavaScript has as well as the managed runtimes that managed runtimes that Zig provided it, right? Both of them were a bit mismatchy most of the time. If you read this properly, you see the decisions and the problems that Jared was facing while using Zig as the main language for Bun, right? We would have gotten this far if not for Zig, and I'll always be grateful. Until very recently, the programming language choice was a one-way decision for a project like Bun, right? The JavaScript is a garbage collected language, and a modern JavaScript engine like JavaScript Core V8 have strict rules around exception handling and garbage characters. Zig, like C, doesn't manage memory for you. This is a trade-off that for many projects is a great reason to use Zig. Zig does not have constructor instructors, and most cleanup is expected to be written out explicitly at the end at each call set with differ. What the fuck? This is insane, by the way. So what this is telling is that doesn't have constructor destructors, and every single thing has to be managed by this single keyword called differ, which is insane. How many differs would have been there? I don't know. If somebody would let me know in the comments, that would be awesome. But I think before merging from Zig code to Rust, right? I think there would have been millions of differs in the Bun code base. But yeah, for Bun currently handling the lifetime of garbage collected values and manually managed values have been source of stability issues. Most often, small memory leaks occasionally crashes. Each memory allocation has to be meticulously reviewed. Insane. Where do these bytes get freed? How do we ensure it only gets freed once? Did we check for JavaScript exceptions properly? Is this garbage collected pointers visible to the conservative stack scanner? Is this garbage collected memory or manually managed memory? For stability issues, knowing that it is early possible is best. Fuzzing happens after code is merged. Yeah. For stability issues, knowing as early as possible is best. Fuzzing happens after coding is merged. CI happens when code is pushed. Runtime safety checks and readiness synthesis happens when the code is run. This is another interesting point that I wanted to save as well. With Zig, right? This is true. This has to happen, right? Because Zig does it with compile time. You have to do it at runtime. You have to check it one by one with fuzzing and things like that. Let's continue reading the blog post, right? One common way to reduce this class of issues was to ensure cleared up code is always run exactly once for that code needs it. So something like a borrow checker. Zig is described to be a simple language with no hidden control flow, and so it prefers to explicit defer keyword to run code at the end of the scope over C++ implicit destructor or Rust implicit drop. Zig defer destructor and move drop. Yep. For Zig code, when exactly should we be running the cleanup code? If you're passing the same template to many different functions, template pointer to many different functions, how do we know that it's no longer accessible and can be cleaned up? How does it work when some functions are need to continue to reference the memory after the function is called? Our current approach is a mix of arena lifetimes with the scope when it's possible. Reference counting pays really close attention. So even if you see this, there are real problems with Zig in using this. So mostly just because you cannot actually, like, it's with Zig you do get the finer controls, but with those finer controls you get the idea that, hey, maybe for a fast moving project, right, you want more compile time niceties, and you want the language to do more than just letting you get the keys of the kingdom, right? Because that's what that's what a fast moving language like Rust does, and uh, helps in developers. Many projects opt to answer these kind of questions through a style guide. Tiger Beetle's Tiger Style is an example of Zig, and Google's 31,000 word C++ style guide is another. Yep, the challenge with the style guides is enforcement. Exactly. How do you make sure the style guide is followed? Historically, the code reviews was best effort for enforcement line linters and static analyzers. So let's put this one as well. I told you this is another point. Historically, this loves the control but hates to micro manage memory, right? You've seen this one as well, right? Having a rigid style guide with clear ownership expectations explicitly spelled out in the type system was a real option for Bun. Since Zig has no operator overloading, we would likely end up with a lot of code looking something like this, where we have a pointer shared TCP socket to a pointer to a shared TCP socket, right? And a shared pointer to a TCP socket, and that the same pointer, we get the pointer, we defer it, we deref the pointer, right? And we try to do something with a. So we got the a pointer deferred, we got the a pointer here, and then we dereference it again, and the less ergonomic with Zig as we expect. Yeah. So every time you have to do this memory management things, right? You have to dereference it again, you have to do all these things, which is something that they would not like to do more, right? So yeah. What about C++? About 20% of Bun's code is written in C++ with Bun embeds several C++ libraries. JavaScript core and JavaScript engine that powers Safari, U WebSockets, micro WebSockets, and U sockets over HTTP WebSockets So yeah, these are the libraries that Jared actually incorporated in Bun. ISPAC and ISQuick, HPAC with HTTP 3 libraries, Boring SSL, Google so OpenSSL forks, SQLite. C++ instead of Zig would have been a reasonable choice for Bun. We would have constructors, destructors. We would delete lots of external C code, but what would still be reliant style guides enforced through code review, and even with Ehsan, so whatever he made, with memory corruption and memory leaks would still happen. So yeah, so they thought that why not C++, right? Because a lot of the languages that they depend upon is written in the native language like C and C++, right? So why not just ship with C and C++? And these are the issues, mostly because of, again, the memory leaks and things would still happen. Again, this is just a very specific problem that Rust is willing to solve, and Rust is built to solve, right? A large percentage of bugs that the list are use after free, double free, and forget to free is an error path. I see Rust, these are compile errors, and RAII like automatic cleanup with drop. Compiler errors are better feedback loop than style guides. Yup, this is true. Again, compiler setters have better feedback than style guide. Let's continue with this blog post again. Historically, rewrites are terrible idea. Excluding comments, Bun is 500,000, something like 600 almost, lines of Zig. Rewriting in another language would take a small team of engineers a full year. It would mean freezing bug fixes, security fixes, and feature development for that time. The least risk of approaching to get somewhere shippable would be mechanical port from Zig to Rust with a minimal number of behavioral changes. This exact same test suite we already used for testing Bun. Yeah, so this is true. If this was any other year than 2026, I think we would never see a switch like this happen in the ecosystem, right? Uh, just because we have all this agentic stuff like Claude Mythos, Solve models, OpenAI's models, Grok 4.5. The crazy thing is that not only can you ship more than a team of engineers in a full year, you can iterate all of this with even less money than hiring all these people, right? And that's something that's, I don't think so any other technological advances have come out that could do something like this, other than I could think of is the compiler and JavaScript as the whole, language. Fortunately, Bun's own test suite is written in TypeScript, which means it doesn't depend on runtime programming language. A year of zero user facing impact is not a realistic option we could not consider, so enforcement through code style fix stability issues were our best bet, and was our plan when we added Rust inspired smart pointers to Bun's codebase. So think about it. Jared was so frustrated with all these memory leaks and memory issues, he had to implement Rust inspired smart pointers to Bun's codebase. At this point, it's just retarded not to move from Zig to Rust, right? It makes sense for the project. It does not make sense for uh, for whatever the next blog post is going to talk about. But yeah, think about it. These are the issues that they faced. They knew that Rust is advertised to solve these problems, and that's why they moved from Zig to Rust. It wasn't a decision made in spite of Zig, right? They did not wanted to make the Zig ecosystem, or Zig, they did not wanted to hurt the Zig community and Zig ecosystem. They just wanted to make sure that the tooling and everything is available for them to move to, you know a better place with all these issues, right? The long running issues of memory and things like that. So that's why they choose Rust over Zig. And I think Jared did pay a lot of money to the Zig Foundation. He used to host a lot of uh, things. I used to join Bun's online things about Zig, and talking about the Bun environment in Zig and things like that, right? I know some people in Bun.js organization before Anthropic acquisition, so that's also true. And they all were really deeply in love with Zig as well. It's not just that they hated Zig or just hated the ecosystem or things like that, right? But honestly, I did not want to do it. Homegrown smart pointers often offer worse ergonomics than Rust with none of the guarantees. What if instead I speak a weak testing Anthropic's new model that can rewrite Bun in Rust? So again, Jared is one of those engineers who would try shit out, right? And his like a race car. If he's thinking about something, I think that problem is already solved in a bit, in a bit of time. And with a bit of time, what I mean is in a week or something like that. At first, I did not expect it to work. At a few days in, a high percentage of the test suite started passing, and I saw how much the new Rust code matched up with original Zig code. My options went from this is worth trying and I'm going to merge it. So that's what happened. Think about it. Like within a 10 days or 11 days spam, Jared could go from this is worth trying to I'm going to merge. This is crazy. I think the situations of about Anthropic and Bun acquisition and things like that led to this rewrite. But I think at the end of the day, this was something that was really necessary for the entire ecosystem in Bun. I think you're gonna see Bun improving a lot in memory department now, given that they have switched from Zig to Rust. Claude rewrite Bun in Rust. There are a lot of ways to do a terrible job. For example, prompting Claude to rewrite Bun in Rust. Don't make any mistakes. And I was praying it would work. Is not what I did. This is how a person would do it. Incremental rewrite or everything all at once. This is still one of the biggest issues with AI programming, right? Do you want to incrementally rewrite something or do you want to do everything at once? And even I, most of the time, I go for everything all at once because the context compaction and context sharing between sessions is insanely fucking hard. I don't want to share context between sessions. If I could, I would much rather have long running sessions than sharing context between multiple short sessions or multiple people. I think that's just how these tools perform really well as well. If you have tried any of the workflow stuff or any of all these other tools, you know this is true. People say that incremental rewrite is better, but it's not. It's better for people to write it, but for AI, it's gonna miss, it's gonna hallucinate, it's gonna lose its shit. So it's better to do everything all at once. In my experience, porting ES transpiler from Go to Zig in the initial version of Bun without LLMs, everything all at once is better. Yes, exactly. An incremental rewrite adds temporary code that you hoped gets deleted eventually. It never happens. Trust me. I have written so many projects with incremental adoption, incremental things, and it just does not work. The second big question, how? How do we keep Bun in Rust with the same Bun as before with the same architecture, performance with the feature set while also getting the language features of Bun like the borrow checker? How do we ensure team can still maintain it after a big rewrite? Do the rewrite that looks like we transferred our Zig code to Rust, gradually refactor it to reduce unsafe and it just look more like idiomatic Rust after Bun 1.4 ships. So I told you 1.3 we saw the introduction to the Rust rewrite, and in 1.4 they are going to start improving making it more efficiency. So this is something that TypeScript as the language also did from TS from writing itself in TypeScript to writing itself in Go with version 6, and now in a lot of day-to-day engineering work at software engineering can be oversimplified into loops. This is true. Let task, while task, to do list pop, result task, feedback await, promise not all, review result. Yeah, exactly. This is what we all do, right? We get a task, we see if this task has a lot of to dos, right? What are the steps to do it? We check if each of those are done. If done, then move to the next task, right? A task has some context associated with the Jira ticket, GitHub issues, the result in the code you wrote to fix it. Code reviewers review the changes to check for regression and correctness, and then you address the feedback. I rewrote Bun in Rust using 50 dynamic workflows in Cloud Code, run continuously over 11 days. So, with if you don't know anything about dynamic workflows, right? I think with the new version of Claude, it's much more real that what a dynamic workflow is basically this, right? It's kind of a loop, but a loop with definite steps. So something like this. uh, if this is step 1, right, then move to step 2. If there are problems, then move to step 3, address those problems, then move to step 4. If done, if done, if done, then move back to this. So this loop continuously runs with definite points in time, right, with definite points where the workflow has programmatic way of doing something. So let me just explain with a good example, right? Suppose that you want to make sure that the UI of your application is entirely shadowsy and ready, and is not simply say uh, simply a single thing, right? So what you can do is basically write a loop like this. 1, port all the components to shadcn. 2, make sure all the components look good. If not, go back to step 1, like, then 3rd. So you see that this is more of a code like way that Jared is talking about as well, right? So like feedback, collect the feedback on the task. If it is okay, then move to the next thing. If not, then do this thing next. So it's more of a programmatic way of agentic programming, right? So agents can programmatically do something. So that's what a dynamic workflow is. It's much more of a coded thing, for a coded algorithm for an agent to follow. So step by step procedure and what to do with something, right? So you could have 50 dynamic workflows, each of them doing a lot of other things continuously over the course of 11 days. Each dynamic workflow has a loop like this: a workflow for generate a prompting guide for mapping zig patterns to type patterns, types of Rust to patterns and types, mechanically port every .zig to .rs file, matching porting.md and lifetime.tsv. Yep. Fix every crates compiler errors, get sub commands for like bun test or bun build to work, get every test in bun's entire test suite to pass, and several large refactors and cleaning passes, right? So 50 of these dynamic workflows were generated and they ran for a course of 11 days continuously. For most of those 11 days, and after I monitored the workflows, I manually reading outputs for to each issues, bugs, and prompting Claude to edit the loops to fix things, right? So Claude could edit these loops. I told you it's programmatic, right? Claude writes this one loops once, and when it runs it, right? Why am I saying Claude as he? I'm just like Anthropic nowadays, right? When it runs it, right, and whenever the Claude is running it, it can change the loop to do something else, and it's very insanely good. I've seen it do ports to multiple APIs. I've seen it do ports from React Native to a different type of frameworks like Electrobun and things like that. So that's how insane it is. How do you review a PR in with 1 million lines of added? How do you start to build the confidence needed to responsibly merge large quantities of LLM authored code? A language independent test suite with millions of assertions. This is true. This is exactly what I do as well. I have my own first testing and everything, and not in the levels of Zig here, but sorry, Bun here, but at the same time, think about it. This is insane that you have all these assertions and everything, and you could already write loops to do all these things, right? So uh, with a loop and a testing suite, you can pretty much restructure or recontain or remake any single project, and you have seen this happen time and time again. You've seen this happen with Next.js, right? Next.js has a lot of tests, and when Cloudflare ported them, they did the same thing. They ran in a loop and they continuously rewrote entire API for Next.js in Vite. So think about it. This is how insane it is. Fixing the whole process that generates the code instead of hand fixing the code. Adversarial review ask Claude in a separate context window to exhaustively come up with reasons why the change create bugs or do not work. So think about it. This is all he had to do. He had to write loops and a good test suite, and just with these two things, you could re-implement an entire thing from scratch to a different language. This is insane. Claude is the same way. The Claude that wrote the code wants the code to get accepted. The Claude that reviews the reviews wants to find the issues in the code, right? So that's the thing. The person writing the code wants the code which can buys their actions to ship before it's ready. Implementer 1, implementer 2, or more adversarial reviewers per implementer. The reviewer's only job find bugs, reason why code doesn't work, implementer doesn't review, the reviewer doesn't implement. So think about it this way, right? So this is the bug, adversarial reviewer, this is the implementer, right? It does this change, the reviewer checks, says this is wrong, change it. This is what it does. Next bug, let's do the next bug. See, next bug. See, next bug. So this is what I'm talking about. Do you see how insane that is, right? This is a loop, right? You can see that does this, does analysis, does the fix. If it's okay, then move forward. This is what I'm talking about. This is insane that this just worked. What does this look like? If you're about to do something big and expensive at same time and money to de-risk it. Prep work. Before writing any code, I spent about 3 hours talking to Claude how to map patterns to our Zig codebase likely, right? Into a 14.md document which ended up on the Hacker News. Yes, I remember this. I was there. We want to see this as well. We're gonna check it out. But you get the idea. Zig to Rust porting guide. You can see how many discussion, how big of a thing this was as well. And yeah, the next question: how do you add Rust lifetimes to code that manually manages memory? That's where I prompted Claude to do something like this. Me. Let's click off a dynamic workflow to analyze the proper lifetime for every struct field in the codebase. This works should read every struct field within every single file, trace control flow. First look at the struct fields, complex lifetime express in Rust, then propose a lifetime in that field, where then use two adversarial review agents to review the lifetime. Then apply any feedback to serialize into a lifetime.tsv and other clauses to look at. Then a round of adversarial reviews on the 14.md and the lifetime.tsv together to fix any conflicting suggestions and double check everything. I manually read over it. Trial run. Before asking Claude to translate a 14,1448.zig files to .rs files, I started with just 3. For each of the 3 files, one implementer wrote new .rs files for 2 adversarial reviews. Per implementer, 2 reviewers. Think about it. The .rs files matched behavior for .zig file and it followed the 14.md and lifetime.tsv. After that, one fixer applied any suggestions. I asked Claude to loop the workflow on all 1448 zig files over 2 minutes. Claude ran git stash before committing, another ran git stash pop, and another git reset hard. These were stepping on each other. I had to put Claude into separate work tree. I would run out of disk space with Bun's git repository being too big. So this is insane. Like I see this at all times. I'm constantly running out of disk space whenever I'm doing sub agents and things like that, right? And yeah, it is true. Actually, even like in the span of 4 to 5 hours, I had my MacBook crash twice doing dynamic workflows. Then Claude resumed the workflow and it was working. Too slowly, but I split it into just 4 workflows shard, each with their own work tree, 4 work trees total. Finally writing the code. Thanks to all the parallelization, this prep work, at peak Claude wrote about 13,000 lines of code per minute. Insane. Every line of code was reviewed by 2 separate adversarial reviewers. Also, Claude went through a round of fixes before committing. Absolutely none of it worked yet. So what I'm coming at is, at this point, you are reading this with me, right? And you see that Jared spent a lot of time thinking about how does he do it properly, right? Because at this point in time, Claude is already been acquired by Anthropic, has already been paid for. They have Jared Sumner been focusing on Claude Code and the issues they have as well, right? It's in his best interest to make Bun as good as it is, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Think about it. This is how, like, The entire thing took such a long while. It took so many planning and things like that, right? All of this for a little bit of wouldn't it have been easier for Jared to not do this port? Wouldn't it have been easier for Jared to just accept the faults of this language, just take the money and go to hell, like go do party and things like that? It would have been so much easier for him, right? But no, that's not what he did, right? He did actually make Bun work with Rust. And if it works for him, if it works for the people at Bun, I'm happy for them, right? So when this blog post came out, there's this guy called Andrew Kelly. If you don't know anything about Andrew Kelly, let me tell you something about this guy, right? Just some precursor to what actually happens, like what actually does he think about this new move to vibe coding and agentic AI and JavaScript and things like that. So Andrew Kelly, actually the best way to show this is via this diagram that I've drew. So say that Jared Sumner is over here. He's an entirely AI based developer, right? He's not exactly an AI based developer as well. I would put him somewhere around here. I would put Theo, Ben, and all these other people to be 100% AI users. At the same time, I would say Primeagen is somewhere over here. He also sees a bit of advantages. This is where Andrew Kelly is, right? Andrew Kelly hates AI. Andrew Kelly hates PRs that are raised by AI or things like that, things like agentic loops and things like that into the Zig project. He thinks Zig is a sanctimonious project, and he thinks that this project does not really deserve any AI attention or things like that. Only people could work on this. He hates being called a JavaScript developer. He hates all these modern tools and things that JavaScript developers have become famous for, right? That's the type of developer Andrew Kelly. He has moved away. He has moved the Zig project away from GitHub to Codeberg, I think, because he hated how GitHub is and how useful, like how how GitHub is becoming a shit show, right? So yeah, if that is true, you can think about it. What would a person who was once a good friend of Jared, right, who supported, like who got support from Jared, who got everything from who got a lot of ecosystem boost from Jared's project that being Bun, right? What would a person like this say about a person getting paid, or a person that helped him go through a lot of the changes that he did with Zig, right? Be made Zig a main programming language. A lot of the projects nowadays use Zig as the main, just because Bun exists and is massively successful, right? So this is what he came up with, and I think I'm just gonna read the blog post. And I know there are revisions to the blog post, but I just think like I'm not gonna cover the revisions. They are more toxic than whatever was said, like whatever was said after. But if you read this, right, actually I'm just gonna get the original one as well. I think Maria has that one. So you can see that no, Jared did not say anything bad about Zik or its creators. Quick summary is a positive good. He repeatedly could credit Zig and implicitly his creators. I bet on Zig after seeing a single page Zig reference Hacker News. You could see that, right? Why does he criticize? He only takes about specific technical challenges to Bun face because of a cynic library. Tone overall respective appreciate. He likes to switch to Rust as a programmatic way. Overall, is it comp time that made him switch, or memory issues? Overall, it was primarily the memory issues. See, I'm not saying that I'm the only one who agrees. I think even an LLM or any other tool would agree, or any other person would agree. Rough compile time was not the main reason. So even in your blog post, if I give this to, even if I give this to AI, right, and I ask it, and do you think Andrew is justified in saying this, right? And is he correct? Is this post personal attack or in any way wrong? Right? Let's just ask it. Is under partially yes but not fully justify expects technical corrections rarely valid. Jared on blog post admits Bun had serious memory leaks. Yeah, yeah, not justified tones. Final verdict and was really given several technical points here. Was unnecessarily personal, bitter, and poorly executed. So, even in asking an AI, which is, as by your definition, stupid, still knows that you personally attacked Jared over nothing. This is a nothing burger. This is his project, his company. Yeah, maybe you're gonna have financial losses because of this, right? And even then, I don't even know if you're gonna have that, because one was not even the biggest project. Ghosty, uh, you know, Tiger Beetle. All these projects were even bigger than this, and you had so much support from everybody, right? You had Primager on your side, you had Theo on the side with the Code Forge thing, you had all these other people on your side. Why attack a person who was on your side? I don't get it, Andrew. I really don't get it. You are such an amazing, wise person. Why would you go and do this? And I'm not saying this to support Jared or something like this. I think he does move very quickly and does not have a lot of time managing people. That is true. He does not have a lot of experience managing people. That is also true. He's a poor manager. I think the way Bun is currently is also not a good managerial system. That is also true. People have to fight uh, for Jared's attention. People have to make sure that Jared actually cares about something. They have to plan for it, right? To make Jared care about something. So that's the thing. And I think people are gonna hate Zig more because of this blog post, and it's gonna hurt you more than giving a political answer that was supposed to be correct, This is so stupid. And I think no other blog post ever made me so worked up about something that I care a lot about. I care a lot about Zig, I care a lot about Bun. I care about both of these projects. But I think Andrew did a wrong thing with writing this post, and the way it's framed is very vitriolic, very, very. I'm just gonna say it is disgusting, right? It's just not good by somebody who actually paid a lot of money to support your system, to support a language that you have written. He could have done that in Rust initially, right? He did it in Zig because he loved your language. So that's what I'm talking about. I think you should have listened to Jared Sumner's points. You should have listened to the Bun team's points. If you had so strong feelings about it, you should have not brought it up publicly. You should not have berated Jared. I think this is entirely wrong. And yeah, that's all I think about it. So that's all I think about this entire blog post. I'm very extremely disappointed in Andrew's post. I don't think so. This is the best way of showing how good Zig is as well. Zig is an amazing language. Don't believe in don't believe in what Andrew says, or don't believe in just what Bun says as well about Zig, because genuinely Zig is an amazing language, right? It's an amazing project, and Bun is an amazing project as well. They have their own strengths, and yeah, now they no longer are compatible, right? And that's just the truth of it. So that being said, I conclude my video. Thank you so much.